I'm told that President Trump recently stated that he would like to end the war. Hopefully he's looking for an off-ramp. Hopefully he's looking for a way to decrease the amount.
Welcome to one of the most revealing windows into how American foreign policy, national security, and White House communications collide in real time. Because what you are watching is a White House press briefing that covers an extraordinary range of topics in a matter of minutes, from the Pope's comments on war and prayer, to Iran's fragmented leadership and a potential Israeli response to an attack on its largest oil refinery, to Russian oil tankers reaching Cuba, to a mysterious military complex being built beneath the president's new ballroom. And at the center of it all is White House Press Secretary Caroline, navigating a room full of reporters with carefully measured answers that reveal as much in what they don't say as in what they do. And that tension between transparency and discretion is exactly what makes White House press briefings one of the most important and most analyzed institutions in American political life. The briefing opens with the striking theological moment when a reporter invokes Pope Leo, quoting the newly elected pontiff's statement that God does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war, theologically charged declaration that places the Catholic Church's new leader in indirect tension with an administration that has consistently invoked faith, Judeo-Christian values, and prayer as pillars of its public identity. And Caroline's response is measured and patriotic in tone, pointing to America's 250-year tradition of military leaders and presidents calling the nation to prayer during turbulent times, framing it as a noble act that service members themselves appreciate. But it is worth pausing here to note that the Pope's statement, if accurately quoted, represents a significant moment in global religious diplomacy. As a newly installed pontiff, making a public declaration about the spiritual legitimacy of warfare is not a routine occurrence, and viewers should ask themselves, does a sitting pope's theological position on war and prayer have any meaningful impact on how a nation like the United States, with its deep religious identity, conducts or justifies military action? And should American officials engage more directly with such statements rather than offering a parallel response that neither affirms nor refutes what was said? The briefing then pivots sharply to one of the most volatile geopolitical flashpoints on the planet, Iran, as a reporter presses Caroline on President Trump's statement to the New York Post that a response to Iran's attack on Israel's largest oil refinery is coming shortly, a statement that, if taken at face value, suggests the United States is actively contemplating or coordinating a military or diplomatic response to a major act of aggression in the Middle East. And Caroline's answer that she has no updates. The Cuba and Russia sanctions questions then open a genuinely complex policy window, as reporters press Caroline repeatedly on whether allowing a Russian oil tanker to reach Cuba represents a softening of American sanctions policy, a question with enormous implications, given that Cuba has been under one of the longest-running economic embargo regimes in modern history. And Caroline's repeated insistence that this was a case-by-case humanitarian decision, and that there has been no firm change in sanctions policy, is a carefully constructed answer that preserves policy flexibility while avoiding the appearance of a strategic concession to Russia. But the reporters are right to push back, because in foreign policy, case-by-case exceptions can over time become de facto policy shifts, and the American public deserves clarity on whether what is being described as a humanitarian gesture is the beginning of a broader recalibration of US-Cuba-Russia relations. The briefing also touches briefly on President Trump's absence from SPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, which Caroline attributes simply to scheduling conflicts given the Texas location, a routine explanation that nonetheless carries political undertones given CPAC's historical role as the ideological heartbeat of the conservative movement and the president's long association with it. And then the briefing takes perhaps its most intriguing turn when a reporter asks about a massive military complex reportedly being built beneath the president's new ballroom, a question that Caroline declines to answer beyond confirming that the military is making facility upgrades at the White House and that she is not in a position to provide further details. A response that, while likely justified on national security grounds, is precisely the kind of moment that fuels public speculation and underscores the ongoing tension between executive branch secrecy and the public's right to know what is being constructed on the grounds of the People's House. And finally, the briefing edges toward the Middle East, again with the question about Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision to allow Colonel Pabala to hold Palm Sunday services at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre after an initial block by Israeli police, a moment that sits at the intersection of religion, diplomacy, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict before being cut off, leaving viewers with an incomplete picture that is itself a metaphor for so much of what happens in these briefings. Critical questions raised, partial answers given, and an audience left to piece together the larger story from the fragments available to them. So, as you digest everything covered in this single White House press briefing: papal theology, Iranian nuclear diplomacy, Russian oil tankers, Cuban sanctions, secret military construction, and Middle East religious access,